You see them everywhere once you start looking. The person sitting by the window in a small cafe, no phone in hand, just staring out at the street while their soup cools. The figure at the corner table in a busy restaurant, a book resting beside their plate, turning pages slowly between bites. The lone diner at the ramen counter, silent among the clatter and steam, focused entirely on the bowl in front of them. They are not waiting for anyone. They chose this. And to most people watching, it looks strange, maybe even sad. There is an assumption that if you are eating alone, something must be missing, that you could not find company, that you are uncomfortable, isolated, or simply killing time until real life begins again. But watch them more closely. Watch the way they settle into their seat, the way they order without hesitation, the way they seem completely unbothered by the crowd around them. There is no nervousness, no need to fill the silence. They are not running from loneliness, they are choosing solitude. And behind that choice lies a psychology most people never see, a deeply intentional relationship with time, attention, and the self. These are people who have learned something essential about presence, about peace, about what it means to be alone without feeling lonely. This is not about being antisocial or broken. It is about understanding a different kind of need, one that most of the world overlooks because it does not make noise.
Most people assume that eating alone means you have no one to eat with, that it is a fallback, a compromise, something you do when plans fall through or friendships fade. They see someone dining solo and think, lonely, awkward, maybe struggling socially. But that assumption misses the entire point. For these people, eating alone is not about lacking options. It is about protecting something precious, their attention, their energy, their ability to be fully present without splitting themselves across a conversation they did not choose to have. Think about what most meals with others actually require. You have to coordinate schedules, navigate preferences, keep the conversation moving, read the mood, respond, perform, even if just a little. And all of that, while it can be wonderful, also demands something from you. It pulls your focus outward. These people are not avoiding connection. They value it deeply, but they have learned that not every moment needs to be shared, and that some of the most nourishing experiences happen when you are allowed to simply be, without explanation or adjustment. This often starts early, not as rejection of others, but as a discovery. Maybe in adolescence, when the noise of group dynamics felt exhausting and they found relief in walking home alone, stopping somewhere quiet. Maybe in early adulthood, when they realized that their favorite moments were not the loud celebrations, but the small rituals they could control. The morning coffee, the evening walk, the meal eaten slowly with full awareness. Over time, they learned that solitude is not the same as loneliness, that being alone can be restorative rather than sad, that they could enjoy their own company without needing constant validation from others. And so, dining alone became something intentional, a choice, a practice, not a sign of isolation, but a form of self-care that the world rarely recognizes because it does not look like what most people expect care to look like. Picture them arriving at a restaurant on a weeknight. They walk in alone, scan the room, and choose a seat near the back. The host asks, "Just one?" And they nod without hesitation. No apology, no awkward laugh, just a simple yes. They settle in. They open the menu and read it carefully, not rushing. When the server arrives, they order exactly what they want, no compromises, no group consensus. And then they wait, not scrolling anxiously through their phone to look busy, just waiting, present. When the food arrives, they eat slowly. They taste it. They notice the texture, the warmth, the way the flavors shift with each bite. They're not distracted by conversation or the need to keep pace with someone else. This moment belongs entirely to them.
Most people would feel exposed doing this. They would feel the weight of other diners' eyes, the silent judgment, the pressure to seem less alone. But these people do not, because somewhere along the way, they learned that other people's discomfort with solitude is not their problem to fix. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe they were the kid who played alone at recess, not because they were excluded, but because they preferred the freedom of their own imagination. No one telling them what game to play, no negotiating rules, just space to think. Or maybe it began later, after years of over-scheduling, over-socializing, feeling drained by constant interaction. They started to notice that the moments they felt most like themselves were the quiet ones. The ones where no one was watching, where they did not have to manage anyone else's mood or expectations. And so, they began protecting those moments, seeking them out, building small rituals around them. Another pattern, they have a different relationship with silence. Most people treat silence as something to fill. A gap in conversation feels uncomfortable, so they rush to patch it with words, jokes, questions. But these people see silence as restful, natural. They do not need the space between moments to be crowded with noise. When they eat alone, they let the silence settle around them like a blanket. They hear the low hum of other conversations, the clink of dishes, the soft scrape of a chair. But none of it demands their response. They can just exist within it. This is not coldness, it is clarity. They have learned that not everything needs commentary, that some experiences are deeper when you let them unfold without narration. They also move through the world with a quiet kind of confidence, not the loud performative kind that seeks attention, but the kind that comes from knowing yourself well enough to trust your own preferences. When they choose a table, they don't second-guess it. When they order, they don't ask for reassurance. When they leave, they do not linger waiting for social closure. They simply finish, pay, and go. This self-assurance was built slowly, meal by meal, moment by moment. Each time they chose to eat alone and feel good afterwards, it reinforced the truth. They do not need external validation to enjoy their own life. Another layer, they are highly attuned to their internal state. They notice when they're overstimulated, when their energy is low, when they need space to reset. And they have learned to respond to those signals before they become overwhelmed. For most people, hunger is just a physical need to fill. But for these people, a meal alone is also an emotional checkpoint, a way to recalibrate, to step out of the noise and return to themselves. So when they feel that pull towards solitude, they do not ignore it. They do not push through and force themselves into social situations they do not have the bandwidth for. They honor the need. They go to that quiet cafe, that corner table, that ramen counter, and they give themselves permission to just be. They also protect their attention fiercely. In a world that constantly demands you split your focus, answer texts, check notifications, keep up with group chats, they have learned that meals are sacred, a chance to focus on one thing completely. When they eat alone, they are not multitasking. They are not half-present, mind-wandering to work stress or social obligations. They are there fully. And that full presence is something they rarely experience in other parts of their life. This is not escapism. It is the opposite. It is a refusal to let their own life become background noise. And finally, they understand something essential about relationships, that you cannot genuinely connect with others if you are disconnected from yourself, that the quality of your presence with others depends on how well you maintain your presence with yourself. So when they choose to eat alone, they are not withdrawing, they are recharging, grounding, returning to the center so that when they do engage with others, they can show up fully, not as a depleted version of themselves scrambling to keep up.
This way of being affects everything in their life, especially how they navigate relationships. They tend to form fewer but deeper connections. They are not the person who collects hundreds of acquaintances or thrives in large group settings. Instead, they invest in a small circle of people who understand their need for space and do not take it personally. When they do spend time with others, they are fully there, not distracted, not performing. They listen deeply because they have practiced presence in solitude. They notice things others miss because they have trained themselves to pay attention. But this also means they can seem distant to people who do not understand them. Friends might feel hurt when they decline invitations. Partners might worry they are being shut out. Family might interpret their independence as coldness. The truth is more complicated. These people care deeply, but they have learned that love does not mean constant availability. That sometimes the most caring thing you can do is protect your own peace so you do not bring resentment or exhaustion into your relationships. They would rather show up once a week, fully present, than be there every day but half empty. Their relationship with stress is also different. When life becomes overwhelming, most people reach outward. They call friends, seek distraction, fill their schedule to avoid sitting with discomfort. These people do the opposite. They pull inward. They find a quiet restaurant, order their usual, and sit with whatever they are feeling, not avoiding it, not numbing it, just letting it exist while they eat, breathe, and slowly return to themselves. This is not avoidance. It is processing. They have learned that some feelings need space to unfold, and that space is easier to find alone. But this can also make them hard to help. When they are struggling, they do not always reach out. They retreat. And to people who love them, that retreat can feel like rejection, when really it is just their way of finding solid ground again. In the modern world, their way of being often clashes with expectations. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, constant connection, and social performance. A culture where being alone is still seen as something to fix rather than something to honor. These people resist that narrative quietly. They do not make a spectacle of it. They do not post about their solo meals or frame it as self-care content. They just live it. And in doing so, they challenge the idea that a full life must always be a loud one. But that resistance comes with a cost. They often feel out of step with the people around them. They watch friends stress over group plans they have no desire to join. They see colleagues bond over after-work drinks they would rather skip. And sometimes they wonder if something is wrong with them for not wanting what everyone else seems to want. The answer is no. Nothing is wrong. They are simply wired differently, shaped by experiences that taught them the value of stillness in a world that never stops moving. And yet, there is also a quiet strength in how they live. They model something essential, that you can enjoy your own company, that you do not need constant external stimulation to feel whole. That peace is not something you find only on vacation or in rare moments of escape, but something you can build into the ordinary rhythm of your days. The people around them might not always understand this, but they benefit from it, because these solo diners bring a groundedness into their relationships that others often lack. They do not cling. They do not demand. They show up when they can truly be there, and they give others permission to do the same. In a world drowning in noise, they are a reminder that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply be still, be present, be enough, all on your own.
So here is the truth about people who enjoy dining alone. They are not broken, lonely, or socially awkward. They are not running from connection or hiding from the world. They are people who have learned to listen to themselves, who understand that solitude is not the opposite of connection, but the foundation of it. That before you can truly be present with others, you must first know how to be present with yourself. Their solo meals are not sad rituals of isolation. They are acts of self-respect. Moments of intentional stillness in a world that constantly demands you divide your attention, dilute your focus, and perform for others. They have discovered something most people spend their entire lives avoiding, that you can sit alone in a crowded room and feel completely at peace. That you do not need someone across the table to validate your existence or make the moment meaningful. That sometimes the most nourishing company is your own. And in a culture that equates being alone with being lonely, that is a quietly revolutionary way to live. What these people offer the rest of us is a different model, a reminder that you do not have to fill every silence, accept every invitation, or justify every moment you spend on your own. That it is okay to choose yourself, to protect your energy, to say no to things that drain you, even if they look like what everyone else wants. They show us that presence is a practice, that stillness is a skill, that the quality of your inner life matters just as much as the size of your social circle. And maybe most importantly, they remind us that being comfortable alone is not the same as being alone because you have to be. It is a choice, a preference, a form of freedom that grows stronger the more you honor it. If you are someone who enjoys dining alone, know this: you are not strange. You are not missing out. You are not less than the people who cannot imagine doing what you do. You have found something rare and valuable, a way of being that prioritizes depth over noise, presence over performance, and inner peace over external approval. Hold on to that. It is a gift, even when the world does not recognize it as one. And if you are someone who has never understood this, maybe now you can see it differently. Maybe the next time you notice someone eating alone, you will not assume sadness or isolation. You will see someone who has chosen presence, someone who knows themselves well enough to enjoy their own company, someone who is exactly where they want to be. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear your story. What does dining alone mean to you? When did you first realize it was something you needed, not something to avoid? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more explorations like this, more psychology that honors the quiet ways people live and feel, subscribe. There is so much more to uncover about the hidden logic behind how we all move through the world.